Hi, I'm live, and now I'm trying to understand how I should do everything. So sorry if I have my iPad there, but I'm live and I'm happy to be live. That sounded a lot like I'm happy to be alive, which I also am, but I wasn't going for that. But now, I don't know why, but the program I'm using is putting it as a child's live, so I have to change it every time manually for some reason. Anyway, now I think it's open for comments, which it's great. So I can see if there's anyone who wants to chat with me, which is amazing. And it helps me connect to other people. So anyway, today I've finally finished all the parts of the ring. You can see it here. And so this is going to go in there. You can see what it looks like. And I made the ring. It's in the right size and the right shape. And this is going to go like this, basically. So I think you can see what it would look like at the end. So today I'm working on this, and hopefully it's going to be finished by tomorrow, and I'm going to set it tomorrow. I need to set the tourmaline here, and it's also going to have a small diamond here in the middle, like if it was like the belly button. Anyway, so this is what I'm going to do today, and I wanted to talk about why I became a goldsmith and how to become a goldsmith, because I feel like that's the question that I get asked the most. Oops. And I have thoughts about it. It's not that I wouldn't have become a goldsmith if I knew all of this in advance. I probably would have, because I genuinely love this job. But it was really expensive to become a goldsmith. And I just said it. It is expensive. And the materials are really expensive. I mean, gold is now at 76 euros per gram. Yesterday, haven't checked today. But like every day is a new record of how expensive gold is. So it's not easy being a goldsmith at the moment because it's so freaking expensive. But that being said, I think working with metals is absolutely amazing. I've actually, I would like to learn to work with other metals as well. Unfortunately, once you start working with things like 18 karat gold, which is just so good to work with, it's just amazing. It's amazing to work with. Then other metals like copper, they're just not as nice. I'm very, very spoiled in that sense. So yeah, I'd like to learn to work with other metals. I actually would really like to do like a blacksmith course, to learn how to work with metal when it's hot, and to shape it with a hammer rather than with pliers. Well, they also use pliers, but to shape it when it's hot, and then you have to heat it and all of that. I would absolutely love that. I think that would be amazing. And yeah, it would be wonderful to learn to use other metals. Sorry, I told you I have really bad allergies, and it's like a second spring here with all the rain and the sun and the rain and the sun. So I'm sorry if I sneeze. I'll try not to, but I'm sorry if I do. Anyway, so if anyone around here would like to become a goldsmith, I would say that the first question would be if you want to do it as a hobby or as a career. And if you want to do it as a hobby, I think it's great. I would work with silver. I would avoid gold unless you have loads of money and you just want to not throw it away, but like keep it in one place, because you're not only going to get like the metal that you use, but you're also going to get like this little scrap. I will send it to a foundry, and they're going to give me back some gold, and there's going to be a lot of gold inside here, but I haven't sent it yet because I need a minimum. And if you're a hobbyist, it will be hard to reach that minimum. So it can be years before you get back your money. So I would start with silver if I was doing it as a hobby, and I would start with wax. This is wax. This is a broken ring that I made. I didn't like it, so I didn't cast it, but it was a ring. It was, supposed to look like waves. But I think wax is amazing because you can melt only what you want, and there are a lot of like casting services out there, so I think you can find them wherever you are. And wax, you don't need a lot of equipment, you don't need anything. You need a bench peg and a saw blade with the blades for wax, and a couple of files, and maybe if you want something like this, this is the word in English is like escaping from my head. It's a drill basically. It's to drill holes and stuff like that, but there are much cheaper versions than this one, also much more expensive versions, but that's all that you really need. And it's a very cheap way of starting. So if I were to do it as a hobbyist, that would be my like entry point. You can also just start with like pearls, whatever kind of quality and price pearls, or beads. All of that is also, I think, an entry point that, like, I used to do it when I was like a child and a teenager. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a very accessible way of doing jewelry, but it's not the same way. So what I do now is actually forging from scratch. Well, what I used to do when I was a teenager was more like assembling pieces that other people had made, and I was putting them together rather than creating them. And personally, what I really, really like is the creation part. So the creating the alloy, creating the metal, and then bending it, shaping it, filing it. That's the piece I really, really enjoy. So I wouldn't change it for the world, but that doesn't mean that it's what you should enjoy. This is what I'm doing is the most expensive. It's the most expensive way of doing it. I do only one of a kind, and I do everything from scratch. So it's literally the most expensive way of doing it. So I don't advise it to anyone unless you want to go really hardcore. Anyway, so if you want to do it as a hobby and you take my advice and start with wax, you can just start at home. You can buy appliances from websites like Cooks and Gold or Stula, and you don't really need even to have a VAT number. So they're open for everyone. And also I think hobbyist places might have these kind of wax. They come, I'm gonna show you, sorry, move my camera. I keep them here. So they come in two formats, and much more than two, but I use two formats. One is this, which is for rings, so it's a tube. You can see it, and I really like this. Wax is quite hard, it's quite dry as a wax. Sorry, it's full of mosquitoes, because again, rain and the heat and the rain again, and the heat again. So I'm like, my legs have been like, I don't know, I have 2,000 mosquito bites now. Anyway, as I was saying, so this is how you do rings, and then you carve out the middle to make it ring size, and then you do whatever you want to do with the outside. And the other one that I use is sheets. So these are sheets. This was like old bits and pieces that I melted together. These are different. Can you see it? I'm going to put it here so you can see it better. These are different width of sheets, so from the widest one to the thinnest one, and you can use them to do whatever you want. You just carve them out like a sculpture, and they're really fun to use because it's very cheap material. So even if you use all of it, it's not going to be that expensive, and you can just have fun with them. If I were to start now, I would just take wax and have fun with it and learn how to sculpt and do mini jewelry sculpture. I think it's really a nice way of starting. Also, if you have a knack for like sculpture, obviously it's a more sculptural way of learning how to make jewelry. So with that kind of wax, you can do whatever you want. Also, another very useful tool is it's a wax heater. I don't know the specific name in English again, because I'm Italian, but it's basically a point that heats up. It's like the one that electricians use to solder the cables, and it's basically the same thing. Or you can use a candle. Some people use like a heated up instrument, like these wax carvers, like these things, like the dentist. You can also take them at the dentist, ask them like, please could you give me the instrument that you're using. Some dentists actually do give them to you, so you can get them for free in that way. But you can heat these up with like a candle and use them to carve the wax. It comes out really wonderfully, really smoothly, and it's all about practice. So once you have a lot of videos out there showing how to carve, and there are also a lot of courses showing how to carve with wax. Once you're satisfied with your carving, and there are different techniques and stuff like that, you can send it to a foundry and they will send it back to you in metal, and then you can work on it in metal, file it, clean it up, set it if you want to go down that route. And I think it's a really nice way of starting. It's a very cheap way of starting, and I advise it for everyone who wants to be a hobbyist. If, on the other hand side, you want to make this your career, then it's a different story. So first of all, what I do, it's very, very rare. So having somebody that does all the stages of a piece is extremely rare. Nobody does it, and there are like maybe a few that do it, like David Michael Jewels. They are a couple of twins from Boston, and they do really high jewelry. It's amazing what they do. And I think now it's only one of them, actually. I only see one of them on Instagram. I don't know what the other one is doing, but he does everything from beginning to the end, and he's the only person who touches his jewelry. I don't know if he cuts all of the like pavé stones. He has a lot of pavé, which means really tiny stones put one close to the other. I don't know if he cut those. I know that he cuts like the points where the two stones, so if I have like two round stones, they will touch at a certain point, and he cuts away this bit so that they can sit closer together, which is like absolutely bonkers. It's maddening. It's wow. It's really impressive. But other than that, I think he does everything by himself. But he's a very, very rare exception. There are a few. I'm one of those. I'm not at his level yet. But it's a few of us. Usually you have workshops and everybody has a role. So there is a sculptor who does only sculptures in wax. There is a 3D artist who does everything in CAD. There are goldsmiths who put together the pieces, who know how to do the mechanisms, but they usually work with already made mechanisms, either in 3D or bought from other companies. There is a polisher who does only polishing. There is a setter who does only setting. And there is if you have like enameling, there is a person who does only that. Every sector is very, very specialized in this world of goldsmithing. And if you want to go and work for a company, you need to be specialized in that sector. So now there are schools, also schools that are made from the jewelry houses themselves. Like Bulgari has a school in Rome, and there is a school that is associated with Damiani. I believe in Valencia, I could be wrong about it, but there are schools for this bigger companies. There is also an amazing school in Paris. I can link them below if anybody is interested in any of that. And they will teach you how to become a specific sector specialized artisan, let's say. So not a person like me who does everything, but a person who's really, really good at one aspect, which will mean that you're going to be really good at that. It will also mean that you are going to work for a company because you don't know how to do everything from beginning to end. Or you can be, like, if you're a setter, you can be a freelancer. There are setters that are freelancing because setting is a very specialized job, and it's difficult and it needs a lot of patience and not a lot of you need to know what you're doing, and it's very repetitive, it's very difficult. It also takes a lot of responsibility because when you become a better setter, then you start setting more expensive gemstones, and if you break them, you pay for them. I mean, you have insurances, but you know, it's still a big deal. Like if you have to set big emeralds with inclusions that could break easily, you need to be skilled and pretty sure of what you're doing. So that's the best. So those are all the roles that you could do. In those cases, I would advise to go to professional schools. They are very expensive. They are. The GRS one in America is amazing, super expensive, but really amazing. There is another one in Antwerp, which is for setting. I think it's only setting, the one in Antwerp, but it's absolutely amazing. My teacher was taught there, and he's really, really good setter. I would really like to go and do a course there as well. And there are different schools, like in Italy, we have schools that are smaller schools and that will help you understand all the different professions. So let's say that you're somebody like me. When I started, I didn't know anything about this world. I just started because I thought maybe I like it, maybe it's something that I would like to do. And so I went to a very generalistic school in Florence. I could afford it, which is one of the issues that I have with all of this, that it's quite expensive and it's all private schools, so it's only for people who can afford it. Unfortunately, it used to be that, sorry, I should be working, but I'm not working this afternoon. It used to be that young people could be part of a workshop, go there and do an apprenticeship and learn for free, but at least in Italy that is not happening anymore for reasons mostly of insurances. And so since that's not happening, the other possibility is schools, and these schools are very expensive because they're private schools, and I don't think it's fair. Otherwise, there are schools, the schools that I mentioned, that are schools, professional schools made specifically by bigger companies who are looking for specialized artisans. So if not considering money in it, which is a huge problem, and I can talk about it, but not considering money, what I would advise if somebody was to become a professional goldsmith would be to do maybe a 2-3 months course where you can try everything, like soldering, cutting, filing, setting, enameling, everything, sculpting, 3D CAD if that's your thing, and try them and see if there's one where it's calling you, where your hands work better, where your mind works better, that you like more. And then if you want to become a professional in this field, then really specialize in that. It's the opposite that I did, complete opposite, but it's the realistic route. Like what I'm doing is not realistic. I think it's very hard, it's very difficult, and it takes a lot of time and resources, and you have to believe in yourself quite a lot, because nobody except maybe like family and friends and people who love you and would support you regardless, is going to give you anything. And it's fine, it's how it is. I'm just being really honest with you. I wouldn't advise anybody to do this unless they're 100% certain, 100%, because otherwise it's just not going to work. But becoming a professional goldsmith, a professional like specialized goldsmith, and working for bigger companies, and then gaining the knowledge, and then maybe when you're like 40 or 50, then starting your own workshop, that is a possibility that I've seen work for many more people. So let's say I'm taking a more difficult but freer route, because I also do everything with responsible materials, which is again very rare. Basically, I decided to do all the things in the hardest, stupidest way possible, just because I thought it was the right way. But I wouldn't advise it to anyone who's not 100% certain about it. So that being said, regarding all the roles, personally, I think if you're into sculpture, obviously I would go with wax. Sculpting is very relaxing to me. It's a very relaxing job. If something goes wrong, you can add some wax, you can take away some wax. It's very, it's soothing kind of job. If you're more into like the mechanisms and putting things together, like a bit Lego, then I would go for traditional goldsmithing, which is going to mean like soldering bits, putting bits together, cleaning the part but not necessarily polishing them, but cleaning them up so that they work together, especially in big maisons. When you do big necklaces and they all need to like move in this way and like sit beautifully on the neck or the shoulders or whatever, they need to have all these like wonderful movements and joints that work perfectly. So that would be my advice. If you are a person who really enjoys repetitive work, very focused repetitive work, then I would say setting. I personally adore setting. I think it's the most calming thing ever, but it's also the most frustrating thing ever if it doesn't go right, because some gemstones are cut perfectly, and setting is 80% a hole. I know this is weird, but follow me on this. These are all bowl drill bits, and they cut when they're new a perfect hole of a perfect diameter. But gemstones are not all the same, and they're not all cut well. So some gemstones, instead of having a girdle, which is the largest bit around the gemstone, instead of having it equal all around, it's like very shallow here and it's very big on this side. And when you have to set it in this way, because on top it has to look like if it was straight. You can't set a stone that looks like that. So it's the problem of the setter to understand where the girdle is going to be so that the gemstone is going to look good in the end, in the finished piece. So if the gemstones are cut really well, it can be really nice and repetitive and soothing to be a setter. But especially at the beginning, when probably you're not going to set like perfectly cut diamonds, it can be really hard and really frustrating. The higher you get and the better stones you get, the easier it's going to get, because those stones are going to be cut better and it's going to be much easier to set. And regarding pavé setting, if you go on bigger gemstones, the better you get, the harder it's going to get, because the gemstones are going to be more fragile, and so you can scratch them, break them, anything like that could happen, and it's difficult. It's difficult, it's nerve-wracking. I think setters are the ones that get more stress. It's also, you get paid by stone if you're a freelancer, so you have to be quite quick, but sometimes quality and being quick don't go together, so you know, you get what I mean. So I think it's the most frustrating but also repetitive and peaceful job between all of them. Enameling is a science in and of itself. I just did very small courses. I'm not an expert in enameling, but I know that you have to use, so each enameling is basically creating glass. So you have pigment into glass and you put it in an oven and it melts, and then it hardens and we see the color. So different pigments will have to be melted at different temperatures because otherwise the colors might change. And you have to, so you can't just put the colors, you have to put the colors in a certain order, so that you put like the ones that go at a higher temperature first, and then you lower the temperature and you layer up the colors if you're doing paintings and stuff. But it also can crack really easily. So the problem is that you have a base metal and then you have this glass over it and they are touching. And if you're not doing it the right way, if the piece is not prepared properly, if something's wrong, if something's not perfect rather than something's wrong, the metal is gonna become cooler at a quicker pace than the glass, which means that they're gonna separate and the glass is gonna do and pop off. I literally, when I did my course, I did a ring 4 times, maybe more, because every time when it was cooling down, the glass would like pop off. And then the teacher told me that it was because my ring had too much of a curvature, and so it was the glass was it was cooling down at a different rate. Basically, it was expanding differently. It was really frustrating, but I think enameling has a lot of potential. I think it would be wonderful to see like new enameling. I think CC Jewelry, I don't know if you know her, but she does these rings and pendants mostly with enamel that look a bit like tattoos, like that style. I think it's really innovative, it's really new, it's really nice. And the last one is polishing and engraving. So engraving, I think it's for people who really like to draw. It's just learning to use another instrument compared to a pen, but it's the same idea. So shades, lines, all of that is like learning to draw with a ball pen. So you get like all the X's where you have more shades, and all the lighter parts, you just leave them alone. There are different techniques of engraving. I'm just talking engraving with one of these. So if you can see it, you basically hold it like this in your hand and you push it this way. Now I'm using it for wood, obviously, and you can see that you made a cut. So it's basically a blade. There was an animal that did a really weird noise, but you basically learn how to use it, how to push it. The same noise by weird animal. And you basically learn how to use it, and there are also pneumatic engravers, like that one over there. I don't know if you can see it, maybe from the camera behind me. I have one here, and it's pneumatic, so you don't have to push it with your hand. I have really small hands, so at the beginning, I had so much cramps. And so those are the professions, and I think once you tried them at least a little bit, then you can specialize on one and start your journey as a goldsmith. That's what I would advise anyone to do. If you want to do what I do, then it's a lot of disappointment and grit and going on whatever happens and breaking pieces and starting them anew and learning things that you didn't think you needed to learn, and knowing that you're never going to be the best at everything you do, because it's literally impossible. But it's really focusing on your style and what you want and what you believe in, and really being certain of yourself. So it depends what you're looking for. But yeah, I wanted to share this because it's the question that I get asked the most, even especially by young people and people who want to approach this as a hobby but don't know where to start. So I hope I gave you some idea of what it looks like. I've spent now like half an hour and I haven't done anything, so I really need to go on with my ring because otherwise I won't do anything. I hope tomorrow it's going to be close to finished, and I'll give it to my client on Monday. So hopefully, I don't know. The deadline is next week, so Monday is going to be over delivering, which is fine. So I'm happy. I'm happy with how the ring is going, and I'm going to show it to you, or show you pictures rather, and the video that I'm making of how I'm making it once it has been delivered, and I can share the story behind it, because again, I don't think I can now. So I'm going to go on working, and I hope this is useful for someone. If you have any questions, let me know. You know, I love to answer them. So I'll see you soon.